Awesome. I'm going to make myself higher.
All right, guys, I'm just going to mute everyone while we call in the light, and then we can unmute afterwards. So I will spotlight. So, all right, everyone, welcome. I think all of you know me, but if you do not, I'm Skylar. I'm the director of Heartfelt, and welcome to another gathering in our Light and Wellness series, hosted with Peter Bort. And we have a very special guest today, Dr. Lynn Morel, and we'll get to that in just a minute, but we'll first call in the light. And so if you want to just close your eyes, this is just something that we do in MSIA, which is the sister organization for Heartfelt, where we just center ourselves and bring forward the light, which I think is appropriate for Light and Wellness. So if you want to close your eyes, you can do so. Maybe taking a deep breath and just let go of anything that's no longer serving you. And then taking another deep breath, breathing in light and peace. And breathe out any negativity or worry or fear, etc. And Father, Mother, God, we call ourselves forward and present right now in your radiant light. We ask for a blessing of clearing and lifting any negativity, worry, fear, karma, dis-ease, anything that's no longer serving us. We just ask that it be taken back to the nothingness from which it came, for the highest good of all concerned. And we see right now the light of spirit filling each one of us, touching and healing us at our cell level, and just radiating out from us to fill the space that we're in, to fill our home. And then we see that light going out across the planet right now, connecting us all into the oneness, and connecting and touching every person on this planet. And we just place right now into this light that's present any intention that we have for today. Perhaps it's something that we want to learn. Perhaps it's something that we want to let go of. And we just ask right now that whatever it is, that Spirit bless it and answer it for the highest good of all concerned, through grace. And we're so grateful for the ability to be here with each other this morning in loving service to one another and for our greatest upliftment. So thank you, and Berush Beishan, the blessings already are. Okay, before you guys get too far gone, I'm going to turn things over to our co-host, Peter Bort, who will introduce Dr. Lynn. So thanks, Peter.
Thank you, Skylar. That was beautiful. And I really experienced that light showering and coming in strongly. And, we had a couple of these gatherings where Dr. Paul Michaluk was sharing with us. And if you haven't seen both of them, they're in the recordings on the heartfelt.org website. And Dr. Lynn got a little involved and with Paul's presentation because they're partners, and Skylar and I both looked at each other. We said, we got to get Dr. Lynn on as a presenter. We love your energy. I want everybody to know that Dr. Lynn's a pioneer in the fields of spiritual science, coaching, and energetic healing. She's a visionary, a thought leader, and she advocates for those seeking to integrate spiritual principles into their lifestyle. Bringing forward the best of Eastern and Western traditions, she has a multi-dimensional approach to personal and professional development to provide a greater perspective and ability to problem solve, support people transitioning and willing to go into new ways of thinking and being. She's a speaker, trainer, and author. She is a 5th degree black belt. And she's the board chair emeritus for A Window Between Worlds. It's a 501c nonprofit. And this nonprofit uses the creative healing arts to help end the cycle of domestic violence. She is a survivor of trauma, probably with a capital T, who has turned it into wisdom, to compassion, to joy. And her stories and her experience of living as a human uplift, inspire, and motivate others to do the same. So we are psyched to have you. Dr. Lynn, we hope you can share on how, the experience of trauma, whatever level that might be, can impinge and hopefully how we can make it so it doesn't impinge on our wellness. Because just to say a little bit about this, we can get somebody in optimal circadian rhythm and we can get them really high functioning in all the things that we know to create wellness. And if they're mostly in the part of their autonomic nervous system that's fight, flight, freeze, and we call that the sympathetic part of our autonomic nervous system. The other side, the rest and restore side, is the parasympathetic. But let's face it, if somebody is constantly in the sympathetic part of their autonomic nervous system, it's going to be tough to be optimally well. And so that's where we see you really bringing gifts and awarenesses to that perspective. And we would love to hear from you.
Awesome. Thank you, Peter. First off, hello to everybody. A lot of you know, a lot of you I don't know. So peace and blessings to us all. And I invite you to just take what fits and leave the rest, because trauma is such a big word. And people say, I only had a little trauma. Or I've worked a lot with vets in the past and with people like the Boston bombing and things like that. And that's a big, big trauma. And as for myself, I grew up in a very challenging childhood, let's put it that way. I thank my mother to this day for all the gifts of her psychosis, because in that minefield, I learned how to navigate and how to stay alive and also how to hide, frankly. People used to laugh and say, girl, you have a voice. So my journey to recovery was a very serendipitous, uninvited event on my part. My younger sister decided that she wanted to take judo lessons with my sister-in-law because there'd been a burglar lurking in the neighborhood. So I was the designated chaperone. The sister-in-law quit before she started. And here I am 57 years later, still using what I learned as a chubby little 5-year-old, 5th grader that was bullied and made fun of. And the story. So through the grace of God, I ran away at 17. And I married my quote, childhood sweetheart, which was the karate teacher at the judo school. And the traumas continued. So when we look at trauma, it's a word, but it's also an energy that gets stuck inside of us. And what Peter said is absolutely accurate. But where the so-called trauma-informed care comes up a little bit short, and by God, it's a great advancement. We don't take into account the parts of us that we freeze, that we put in a deep freeze, and we go on with our life, but there's less of us present to have a fullness in life. So today I'd like to address ways that you can actually take home to work on your own stuff. And the biggest key is to love yourself. Now, that's very challenging to do when you've grown up abused, or there's been sexual abuse or robberies or war. It's very easy to say, oh, just love yourself. But there's a process. You know, we have to go back to our innocence. And for some of us, I mean, I had 17 years of missing memories. I ran away. I couldn't remember anything until my second husband died in a plane crash. And all of a sudden, the ice got melted. Oops, excuse me. I thought I turned this off. Anyway, so my journey began when I ran away from home. I worked myself through college. I was the intellectual, the epitome of intellect. I was doing grad school by the time I was a junior in college because they didn't know what to do with me. I was miserable. I was absolutely miserable. I worked in a nursing home and I watched people be so mistreated that inside of me something was evoked, that I wanted to be able to help people. So that's the beginning of my journey. Was I a card-carrying victim? Heck yes. Poor me. Everything happens to me. And that is a process of liberation. We want to become aware. First, we have to be aware that there's something there. That, for example, I work with somebody, I still work with him, but when somebody gifted him a session with me, he was completely in debt, didn't have enough to start working with me. And I said, write a goal. And this man just wrote a goal. I have the money to pay for Lynn's sessions. Well, by the time we were done talking, his receptionist or secretary came in and handed him a check. It was the exact amount of money he needed to start. And the impact of our first conversation was felt by all of his colleagues. And this guy's considered a thought leader in the world. And I was invited to a meeting of 4 movie directors. And the first thing that they said is, what did you do to him? I said, we had a conversation. Well, he's different. Well, how's he different? I want to know what you did. And they were one of them was so like aggressive about wanting to know. The other 2 were already my clients. I didn't know. So they laid down on the couch in the suite and took a nap, which is how God's way of making privacy. And in the end, after this aggressive guy, the other guy said, you can work with me. It's okay. He's my business partner. The end result was he joined me. And this man went on to make $10 million, which he sold his business for recently. And that's in the space of 3 years of self-hatred, 4 to 6 wives, couldn't be himself. And why? A trauma at 8 years old. Now, he thought he'd put it behind him. But when we went in and we accessed that little boy, the freeze just dissolved. And the key for him is he'd lost a 10-year-old son to cancer. So it was very, very like fortuitous and serendipitous that this other client of mine for like 16 years referred this guy who's going through his own personal trauma. Each of us has inside of us a seed that's been planted with our trauma, a seed that will awaken. So what I'd like to talk today about is how to awaken yourself to, it sounds like a terrible thing to say, but the joy of discovery of the parts of us that we've put in hiding. And I'd say 99% of the population, I'd dare to say 100% of the population is traumatized one way or another. A teacher, in first grade, I was put in a garbage can in the back of the room facing the coat rack in winter because I didn't know I needed glasses. And the teacher put me there. You know, I was in the trash, the entire lunch thing. She forgot about me. And so my model of myself was I'm a piece of trash. You know, and that was I was about 6 years old. So if each of you right now can just write down whatever comes up, we can do a massive trauma clear without any of us getting upset. You may shed a tear and nothing may happen, but at least you'll have a process. Does that sound by a nod that might be of interest? Perfect. So let's just pick something. It could be somebody who cut you off in traffic. It could be you got your car hit and run and swiped while you weren't there. Whatever it is that's bugging you that is yet unresolved. And when we hold on to things, we have our intellect and we have our more basic self or our egoic self, let's call it. And the mind, untempered, tends to hold on to stuff. Any of you ever held on to something like a dog with a bone? Oh man, I'm queen of that. And so when we get curious about what is this that I'm holding on to, I would call it a negative energy construct. Because if any of you have ever seen The Matrix, it's like 20 years old or something, there is a false reality. Well, our world is a duality of sorts, the light and the dark, the positive and the negative. We can, with our light energy and our intention, overcome anything. I know, because for 38 years, I've been helping people overcome the impossible, their illnesses, their inability to be in a relationship, all because they got curious and they wrote it down. What is it that bugs me? Okay, so that's the first thing, is to get curious, because when we're in fear, what are we going to do? We're going to be like an oyster in a clamshell. So what I want us to do today is make this fun. Okay, the negativities that you ever have any barking dogs in your head where you can't get a thought out of your head? You wake up in the morning and it's like it goes from worse to worser and worstest, you know? And so I call them the barking dogs. You know, some days it's Chihuahua, some days it's German Shepherd, other days it's a pit bull, but we all have that voice. It is inherent to us. It is installed at the moment of conception. We have the positive polarity and the negative. And let me tell you, by a nod of heads, how many of you have felt that it's easier to be negative than it is to be positive? It truly, truly is. And I'm going to put this so I can see all your shining faces. And so from that context, you've got your thing written down. And now if you were to write down what it is that bugs you the most about that thing you can't get rid of. You know, like mine could be, well, I got ill last year and I gained 20 pounds. It could be, rah, 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 rah. Why didn't you lose weight? Why aren't you losing weight? Well, why doesn't get you anything? It's an intellectual thing that doesn't work. But if you get curious, is, wow, wait, I know I've put you on. Is there something you're trying to tell me? So you actually engage in whatever the trauma issue is or the irritation is by getting curious. So this morning, just before this call, I was working with a woman who's had a massive cough since 2013. And it's very difficult for her to work with me because she's coughing and she can't breathe and she's been to the ER and they've put her on steroids. None of it has worked. So rather than us do our work today, she works for me. I said, well, why don't we clear this once and for all? And she goes, I can clear this? I said, of course you can clear this. So I said to her, and I'm going to ask you this question: when did you remember the trauma that you wrote down? It could be yesterday. It could be when you were 10 years old. You know, it could be a divorce. You just write it down. So now you've named it. Once you name something, you can clear it. If it's mucking around in the back of your head somewhere, someday maybe I should, or I will never do that again. That's the negative barking dogs. But when you become curious and invoke the light is the highest spiritual energy that there is. And light is always greater than darkness. So the very action step of writing it down, you've already named it. So now the negativity can't run you in circles because you've forgotten what it was that you were mad about. Does that make sense? A nod of your head's good. Thank you. So taking that forward, just to give this woman as an example, because it's pretty typical. I asked her when her cough started. I asked her what went on around the time that her cough started, and she was stuck in a mountainous crevice in a gondola that stopped working, and she was left swinging in the wind, being afraid of heights for hours. And so that was the beginning of her cough. And we took it back a little bit further. Well, that's interesting. Where else did you feel abandoned and alone? And immediately she goes, my parents. Huh, tell me a little bit about your parents. Well, they were perfectionists. My dad never said a good thing about me, and my mom was on and off again. And so I said, are you a perfectionist? Oh my God, it drives me nuts. So the things that we pick up from our parents often are carried forward with a trauma basis. So frequently, if I'm working with someone, I'll say, huh, did you ever meet your grandfather? Oh yeah, he was a mean son of a gun. How about your dad? Oh, my dad used to tie me to the post in the basement if I did something wrong and leave me there. See how that's passed through on the generations. If you can name it, you can clear it. Does that make sense? And it doesn't have to be hard. The barking dogs would say, you need to work with a therapist for 35 years, until you're done. And what do you do every week? You go in and you analyze what you talked about the week before. Now, it's well-meaning, trust me, and it's not as effective as going right to the core using the light. And the light is the thing that can restore everything to us, our natural birthright. So you've got that issue. If you've written down when you remember it happened, then I would like you just to look at the possibility that you judged yourself. I don't know anybody that hasn't judged himself. I mean, I have a judgment meter installed. I broke my leg about 10 years ago. I never had it casted. The doctor thought I was crazy, but by God, the thing knit together. And I was on the board at MSIA at the time, and Dr. Philip Barr was the chair, and he goes, you couldn't have broken your leg. You can't stand on it. I had a half a basketball on the side of my leg. And I had my regular doctor meeting, the next day. And I said, can you look at my leg? He goes, my God, you've broken your leg. I said, how can you tell? He goes, you have a half a basketball on your leg. It's 100% consistent. Now, here's the thing about being real time. I'd gotten on my knees and begged to have my mother issues cleared. I literally surrendered my attachment to my mother being Dehexa, the bat, or the witch. God bless her soul. She was doing the best she could. That bike and that break literally took away that trauma. It would seem like you did a trauma to add to a trauma. But in my case, I started praising and thanking God inside my head. 2 people picked me up. I was cracking jokes with them. I was able to bike, believe it or not, to where I was supposed to have breakfast. And I called Paul. I said, Paul, can you take a look at my leg and my arm? He goes, my God, you've broken your leg and your ulna. So he diagnosed it, quote unquote, and he ran his electrical matrix for those of you that have seen it. So
And just to clarify, this is all remote, what you're describing.
This is all remote. I'm in California, he's here. But time is, there is no separation in the field. Everything is everywhere. When they shoot electric protons and neutrons, when it gets to the end of the tunnel, it appears at the beginning of the tunnel. That's a very cool experiment that I read about. So it goes to the end, and there it is again, wave and whatever the other thing is. So this was an affirmation that I could heal a core trauma. I was taken away from my mom at 6 months because she tried to kill me a few times. And I lived with a grandmother and an uncle. And then at 5 years old, I was promptly brought home to go to school because my parents wouldn't give me up for adoption. So you can see there's a big ass trauma in there. When I fell and that crunch happened, I was liberated because I chose to take consciously to be aware, awake, and accurate. I was aware that I had hurt my arm, my leg and my arm. That was not made up, that I had the data in front of me. I was aware that I had asked for a dispensation to clear the againstness that I held with my mother. And I was accurate because I got exactly what I wanted by putting it in the light for the highest good. I didn't know what the highest good looked like, but I do know I surrendered. And I don't surrender very easy because I've been taking care of myself since I was 17, actually, since I was born. But I surrendered with my knees on the ground, which puts me in connection with the heart. So I had a genuine heart connection with God, where I asked if this could be lifted from me. It looked really crazy. But after I saw the doctor, the next day I was on a rebounder. Now, mind you, I wasn't jumping high, but I was rebounding and everything was restored to wholeness. And part of my treatment with that doctor was he stung me with bee venom. And he goes, are you allergic to bees? Here's a serendipity. My mom was definitely allergic to bees, but I don't know if I am or not. He goes, well, you cleared your mother issues. And I happen to be working with MS patients today. So are you allergic to bees? I said, I don't think so. I thought he was going to give me a homeopathic Instead, he had me in my gown laying face down and he started stinging me and he stung the base of my skull. And I levitated off that table. And then he stung all of the places. The basketball the blood started to be moved out. I could use my dislocated finger again. You know, the arm healed, all of that because I invoked light. And, you know, in the movement, they say living in God's holy thoughts. And the irony of that break was I had met the woman that wrote the Aborigine Walkabout, and she recanted it because they were threatening her Aborigine friends. One of their fellows fell and broke his leg and the bone was sticking out. And she said the next day was completely whole and was up and walking. And I always wondered, be careful what you wonder. I wondered if I could do that myself. So when that happened to me, I didn't go, oh my God, it's another victim thing. Oh, poor me. I said, wow, 2 birds with 1 blessing. I got to see if it could be done, and I healed with my mother. It's that simple. So take a minute now. That's a long story, but it actually is a short story because the entire event lasted less than a week from, you know, one end to the other. So in your case, if you have the time, if you can remember what it is, just write it down, cross it out. And is there anybody that doesn't have it? Does everybody have their little thing? It could be a baby trauma, it could be a big trauma, doesn't matter. So write it
She's
down.
got a hand, right? Clara's got her
Okay.
hand up.
Okay, Laura.
Hi, Clara here.
Oh, Clara.
Hi, Lynn. So good to see you. I have healed a lot of the trauma in my life, I think.
Mhm.
And when I took inside trainings, I was a teenager. I already had gone through a bunch of trauma, but I was a teenager and I heard you create, promote, or allow anything in your life. And that kind of marked me for life. And there's a part of me that wants to be the victim and say, but no, you know, that happened to me. They did this to me. And the other part is like, no, you create, promote, allow everything. And there's a conflict. And when you ask for finding one of the traumas, I couldn't name any, but there is nothing that I feel I need to work with right now. But it may show up. It's just I just
Well,
don't have it right
here's
now.
the thing. Well, Kay has asked a question about being grateful for clearing an electric bicycle accident.
Mhm.
So we all have the one thing. Yes, we do create, promote, and allow. But from my perspective, sometimes the create, promote, and allow may not even be from this time period, because all things that go around, everything is returned to the creator. So the best way out is to say, okay, yeah, I like victim. It's fun being a victim. It really
Sometimes.
is. It's very comforting. People, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that about you. But what we're doing is we're abdicating our God nature. Because
Yeah.
with God, all things are possible. And what you're stuck in is what I would call the matrix, the victim consciousness. Now, when I did my DSS doctorate, my paper was on the healing of victim consciousness.
Mm.
And so the way to heal the victim is to first love and accept the one that was in that experience.
That was my question, actually, because the part of me that is so connected to God and so into the light and the movement and all that knows that God got me. I mean, I'm backed up by the traveler and the spirit and ministries and all those things. But the part of me that is still ignorant and sometimes goes into the darkness is that part that you just mentioned, is that victim part. Was the answer that you said, that the idea is to recognize that is there or that it happened?
Yes, you're right on it. And for everybody on the call, if you can go take the part that you don't like, say your liver is acting up and it's not happy.
Mhm.
You literally get yourself in a meditative place, you invoke the light, and you go in and you hold your liver as though it were a child. You hold a 3-year-old. Yesterday, I worked with a gentleman, and he lost his mom when he was 11. But basically, the issue started when he was 3 years old, when his dad punished him for lying.
Mm.
you know, and he was a 3-year-old and he picked up a pencil and he threw it in the bonfire. And the dad just beat the crap out of him and said all sorts of negative things. He's a 3-year-old. So he used to dig holes in the garden so he would have a safe place to hide. Of course, he
Mm.
never could because he dig the hole and his parents would fill it in. But yesterday I had him go back to his 3-year-old, embrace his 3-year-old, and show him the exquisite, safe place he had created in his adult life.
Yeah.
And it went like that. You know, he
Yeah.
just said, oh my God, I got it. Okay, you sure you got it? Absolutely. My 3-year-old is happier than a clam. He's playing in the safe room.
Mm.
There's a safe place. The safe room is his heart. So that's how quickly it can happen. The more willing and curious we are, the quicker we let go of our victim.
Yeah.
When my husband David, my second husband, died in a plane crash, I really felt like a victim. It's not fair. We work for God together, right? And then I really got introspective and I said, now, wait a minute. Obviously, it was David's time to go. Here's a metaphysical miracle. My friend Sally ran a health food store. When David died, I was on a business trip riding home. He went and dictated a note to her, which was in pencil and it's so faded I can barely read it. But what it said was, the light is fantastic. I hadn't expected a celestial choir. I'm sorry that I had to leave and I didn't believe in life insurance. These are things he wrote down that nobody could know but me. And then he said, we will do better work with me on the other side.
Mm.
You know, and God bless him, he died in an ultralight crash. He was an airplane pilot, but he bought himself an ultralight that malfunctioned. I had sightings from the group that I had done in North Carolina. People that didn't know me, I'd just been to that group, started calling me and said, your husband showed up. Tell me more. Well, he showed up in this funky looking little elevator thing. I was about to light up a joint and I was sitting in a field and he walks up to me and says, young man, that's not good for your health. And he turned around and he went back to his health, to his thing. And I said, when did that happen? It happened 3 days ago. I said, David died. He's not here. So beyond even the grave, he helped that person heal. That's how powerful we human beings are.
Yeah.
Think what you can do while you're alive. You don't have to die to be able to do that stuff. We die to the old us.
Yeah.
We die to the energy of the negative persuasion that is so easy to turn on. We wake up with it every morning. Do you ever know, oh my God, I don't want to get up. I'm so tired today. Before I even get out of bed, I'll do a couple of exercises, which I'd like to teach you all today. Very simple moves. Matter of fact, everybody right now, just shake your hands like they're wet dish rags. This is a 5,000-year-old Qigong exercise from China, way back to Lao Tzu and probably Sun Di. And so by doing this, you literally are shaking the negative polarity, the energetic field off your body. It's that simple. And I do it anywhere from a minute to, I do it at traffic lights. If there's a lot of traffic or somebody cuts me off, you can also rub your hands together. There's another simple one the Russians do in, the grandmas wring their hands. There's actually a purpose. You're stimulating all the acupuncture outlets. That's how you can begin to let go of victim. When it shows up, no, neg, it is not me you're looking for. Neg is my short for negativity. I can't say matrix because Paul has the electrical matrix, but no, neg, ain't me you're looking for. And then you bring your attunement back to awareness, awake and accurate. What we're aware of is that we're God's beings, we're souls having a human experience. Now I read one where the JR said once that the human body is the soul uses the host as a human body, something to that effect.
Yeah.
And so with your issue, when it starts to come up, you can make fun of it. Oh my God, it's up again. Oh, praise the Lord. I'm so happy for the light. And it has to go because you are the creator.
Yeah, I'm good at doing that I add a little bit of drama to the drama to make it really fun and
Of course, you're a
funny.
storyteller.
Yeah, exactly. And I wanted to just say something quickly before we move on with the rest. It's interesting to me that my dad actually was murdered in Colombia, South America, when I was a teenager. And that was one of the many. But the thing is, when I got the news, I immediately went into gratitude, into delight, into the traveler, into like I immediately talked to my dad and said, you go, you go do your thing. Don't worry about us. We're gonna cry, we're gonna let go, we're gonna do our process, but you go with the light. And it's interesting that I had like so much resource at that time. And
Yes.
funny enough, when something that is not as significant as that event sometimes has happened, it is like an opportunity where the part of me that maybe still wants to go into that victim or that other aspect falls into with small things. So I wonder if there is some unresolved thing unconsciously there, or from big things in the past, that when something very little comes, it becomes a huge thing. Yeah, I just wonder.
Well, I'm not quite sure about that answer, but what I do know is the times when I wake up in a bad mood, for example, or whatever it is that happens, normally I'm pretty much in equanimity. But say I wake up with a splitting headache and it's the third day in a row, and I'll say, Paul, I can't clear this. He goes, oh, it's emotional. Oh, great. What level is it? Okay, it's etheric level. Then I get busy and I go in and I bring love to that level.
Mhm.
Even if I stub my toe, I'll go light, light, light.
Yeah.
And I do believe that there's a snowball effect. When James died, I said the same thing. Go, 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 go. Don't look back. Don't look back. Because I want them to blast off without any attachments.
Yes.
And so when we do that for ourselves and for others, I do believe, I lived in Marina del Rey, and when the tide came in, all the boats rose.
Mhm.
And when the tide goes out, all the boats go down. But there is a connection, a morphogenetic field connection between every single human being on this planet. Now, I can't testify to that scientifically. I'm sure there is, because it's a morphogenetic field, but they made fun of the man who brought it forward. But there's a ripple effect.
Yeah.
You drop a stone in the ocean, eventually it will go out forever. So each time one of us on this call brings forward a trauma and addresses it with loving, not, I shouldn't have done this, or I shouldn't have done that, or that was stupid, or, that's the automatic negative perspective. And from my having done this work, the trauma work for so many years, the best way out, acknowledge it, don't dwell on it, find the wisdom in it. We are who we are because of what we've lived through. I praise and thank my mother for her insanity, because I learned how to read people. And I'm grateful to her for forcing me to go do martial arts classes. That's allowed me to do some incredible things with my voice. There's lots of things that you can do that. So when we build a muscle called gratitude,
Yeah.
for our trauma, we open ourselves to the wisdom of Solomon. Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah, it is.
And I got that. My daughter was pretty much forcibly taken from me by her crazy dad. You marry the same people you have as parents. And when she first came to visit me in California, she said, Mommy, Billy and I, her husband, decided you don't eat enough. What's your favorite meal? I said, well, I love curry. Is there a farmer's market? There happened to be a farmer's market that day, three blocks away. As she's chopping the grass, the lemongrass, she turns around and she goes, Mom, the guy, the king in the Bible, and the two moms fighting over the kid? I said, yeah, Solomon. He goes, Mom, you loved me enough to let me go. You're like Solomon.
Oh.
I was in my 30s. I was at a Bible study, the Old Testament, the only time I actually went. They said, if you could be anybody in the Old Testament, which one would you be? And immediately I said Solomon. And so my goal has been to take every trauma that I have and to turn it into some kind of treasure, that if if there's, JR used to say, if you're climbing a ladder, you got to reach for the person who puts a hand down to help you. That's what each of our traumas can be.
Mhm.
We like, for example, Kay, with your electric bike, we'll get to you. And doing that, you will open a ripple effect that you will bring people to you that if you choose, just a word or two can help.
Thank you so much.
It's exquisite, and it's human nature, truly, if we're not totally messed up, to want to help another human being. When I call customer service, the first thing I say is, "Hi, how are you?" And there's this dead silence because nobody says that. "How's your day going?" Oh my God, it opens it opens a positive box
Yep.
for cooperation. And then I thank them.
Yes.
And so when we thank ourselves for our trauma, when we get interested in what brought this forward, not that we blame ourselves, but this is a stepping stone to incredible wisdom, to being an angel on earth. And that's where we shine, in our humanness.
Yeah.
We become human earth angels. And
one.
yeah, everybody on this call is one. Let's put it that way. So when you look at this trauma that you haven't quite been able to do, give it a shape and a size. If it's inside your body, locate it. Do your light, call on the light, ask for grace, and ask that any negativity not be allowed. And when you're done, sometimes I will say, and put that in a super sucker tunnel of light with a shredder.
Yep.
And it goes back to the formless and comes back as equal or greater energy.
I love it.
That's the value of trauma clearing. We can be miserable, and it's so easy to be miserable.
Oh, yeah.
How's your day going? Whoa, it's me. I worked with an older gentleman once in a hot tub of all places with his wife, and it was a party. And I said, so Irv, like, what do you do for joy? Nothing. There's nothing in my life that gives me joy. He goes, I was in Auschwitz. There is no joy. And
That's funny in and of itself.
and his wife goes, "Oi, cut it out. You love your jacuzzi, so shut up." You meet people where they're at, and we don't know what they went through.
Yeah.
We can only know what our human form went to, and then ask them, not to fix them. Nobody's broken. Nobody needs fixed. We're all on a journey.
True.
When I decided I wasn't broken, my life changed. When I decided I was a human being having an experience, even though I was spiritual in nature, I still had to walk through what I chose before I even came in.
I think that's my answer, to remember that I am not broken. There is nothing to fix. I am fine and perfect just as I am. And all
Right.
those negative, dark parts are the ones that need to be brought to the light, to be seen, to be loved, and move on and
I
have
put
all
them in
that
a
back.
bus to Miami,
Say that again.
and they're really barking loud. I said, guys, on the bus, you're going to Miami.
Oh, the dogs got it.
Dogs, they're all on the bus, and I get some peace, and I do my spiritual practices, and I take a walk, and I get physical. I hope that helps. So write down what you need to do right now so you remember. And can we go to you, Kay?
Thank you.
Okay. Well, how long ago did you have your electric bike accident? Oh, you're muted, I think. We need to unmute you. Okay, unmute.
Okay.
There you go. Bottom left-hand corner. I hear you. Wonderful. So let's use this as a sample. Can we share this with everybody on the group? Because each of you take the piece that works for you, because it's not one
Yes.
size fits all. So when did that happen?
October 30th, 2022, I was on an e-bike and I crashed going at a very top power and injured my face and my mouth. So the good news is that I've lost weight because I can't chew well and my blood work was really good. And I haven't been able to see a plastic surgeon and the dentist I see next week. I'm not hiding today, which is a miracle. So thank you for that. I'm very grateful for you, Dr. Lynn. I'd love to read your PT. Thank you, Peter, for putting in drlynmorel.com. Encouraging everyone to donate to HeartReach because this is a free experience and I really want to give back to HeartReach. So
That would make me extremely happy.
yes, and I am full of gratitude for you, Dr. Lynn, and for Dr. Board, and to everyone, and to this ability to be able to heal because I haven't so far until today, this moment, been able to heal from this. It's a series of mini accidents. It's the latest of a series, but I'm realizing that it's leading me to God, and I just look at how this is getting me closer to my cosmic form. I'm have been embarrassed to show my face. It doesn't really look that bad, but yet for me, I feel that negative barking dog has felt, oh, you're deformed, you're ugly, and yet that's not really who I am in spirit. So thank you.
It's the barking dog. You've got a pack of barking dogs there, Kay. We got to tame those puppies.
Mhm.
No, and so if you could just consider for a moment that this accident was for you and that it was liberating you from things that you don't remember anymore.
Mhm.
You know, it's not in your genetic line, no, it's inherited, no, past life karma. So just know that karma is not punishment.
Mhm.
Karma is an opportunity to grow spiritually. I look at it as stepping stones, you know. And what have you learned about yourself?
Well, first of all, is I am not addicted to food anymore because I haven't been able to eat or binge or whatever. So
Uh-huh.
that's a huge blessing of being able to make more mindful choices about what I put in my mouth. So that's a real blessing. And to really go inside and access the real healing and to know that, I am a spiritual being, even though I'm in a physical body. So I'm very grateful for my spiritual teachings. And I think this is a piece that God brought forward for me to heal. So,
Yeah.
so
Do I have permission to like access your field? To access your consciousness?
I really, yes, I can see that this
We can
got,
do it all. We can do it offline if you want, if you're more comfortable. But one of the things that you can do, this too is unconscious and it's also more of a spiritual nature. Like the way we get wisdom, from my perspective, is we're the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Mhm.
All of us, one time or another, commit spiritual crimes unknowingly. We manipulate people. There's people on this planet now that are master manipulators. God knows what karma they're doing for themselves. But if you could go inside and just do a forgiveness, and it's this, everybody can use this in your own variation. And I don't want you necessarily to do it now. You can do it later. Okay. You say something to the effect of, I forgive myself for spiritual crime number 1. I forgive myself for spiritual crime number 2. You don't even have to know what they are. Your beingness knows. I forgive myself for spiritual crime number 3, 4, 5, 6, and you count it 7, 8, 9, 10. And can you feel things moving inside of you? Yeah. If you can do that and count to 100, that algorithm will pull all those files out. And then you can control, alternate, delete. Now, for me, that's touching your hand on your forehead, which represents your ego, coming down to the tip of your nose, which represents your unconscious mind, where all the files are stored, back to your thing, and then up to God. Control, alternate, delete. And you do it, you just keep counting. I'm a member of the 1,000 Club. Sometimes I have had to count to 1,000 to clear something. Generally speaking, for everybody listening, if you can count to 100, and you'll find that if you're on the right key combination lock to release whatever the trauma is, you'll find that for example, I did a live radio call with this Dr. MD, Dr. Khan, on trauma. And at the end of the call, she goes, let's take callers. And the woman said, hey, I've been dealing with trauma for 40 years. I've been Rolf, Groff, psychiatrist, psychologist. And I said, you want to clear it now? And she said, yes, now on the phone. And the doctor said, you really sure you want to do this in public on the phone? Absolutely. When she got to, I'm not sure exactly which number in the teens, but it was number 12, I think. She started going, she couldn't say 12 because that's where it was locked in storage. Just imagine our past things that are unresolved are in a storage unit. You get the right combination, you find the thing, you open it and you let it go. By the time she had counted to 100, I said to her, so what are you experiencing now? She goes, I can't find it. It's nowhere inside of me. It's gone. You can do that for yourself. Everybody on this call can do this. You call in the light, whatever way you do. You ask for safety of protection. You know, I'll ask for the angels or Archangel Michael, whoever it is you're comfortable with, the traveler for sure. And in that safe container, you don't need to be more punished for what you've done because you've already been punished. And there is no punishment other than what we actually enact upon ourselves. If you think about it. So if you can do that counting, even to 1,000, I would suspect there would be a huge shift. And something as simple as counting to 100 can be unbelievably difficult. But it's better than going through a car crash or falling down an elevator chute or whatever it is that will take us out. This is a way to open and expand our Solomon nature, our traveler nature. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to do that. So, you know, we'll keep going and see what else shows up. And then I think there's some other people that have their hands raised. Has that helped you?
Yes, immensely. I'm so grateful. I'm grateful to Heartreach and to all of you and to, you know, God and all of the angels, archangels. And thank you so much, Dr. Lynn. Thank you.
You're welcome. And if I can tell you what I'm looking at spiritually, all I see is your radiant form.
Okay,
It's
thank you.
gorgeous, and you are gorgeous, regardless of what it looks like.
Thank
Okay?
you so much.
And so let yourself let go of the crap and then see what happens.
Okay,
Easier and better than you can imagine, my friend.
all right. Thank you so much.
God bless, all for the highest good.
Thanks. Okay,
Hey,
bye-bye.
who's up next?
Kathy and Anne have their hands raised.
Okay, who's on first?
Oh, Kathy's got hers first. So let me pin Kath.
Hi, Kathy.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Kathy Kornblum. I don't know that we've ever met. Been in the movement a long time, DSS, blah, blah, blah. And it was interesting, a couple of nights ago, I had a dream. My biggest physical issue right now is that I have terrible hot flashes and heart palpitations. And they get worse and worse through the day. And at night, I get to the place where I wonder if I should be going to the hospital sometimes. Yeah. And they've gone away anyway. And I had a dream the other night, and it wasn't necessarily new information, but it really solidified that this really is the issue, if it is, that it has to do with my parasympathetic and sympathetic system. So here I am on the call with you, yay. And when you asked about the trauma, what came to me is, and I'm apparently feeling emotional, and I live alone because my wife died 5 years ago. 5.5 years ago from cancer, and my mom died when I was 21, like on my 2 days after my 21st birthday, of cancer. And I think that's the trauma. I think there's a place inside of me that is still like, you know, can't seem to let go of the sympathetic. I had a stressor one night. It was a stressor that anyone would have found stressful. Like I was running the sound system for something and all hell broke loose, and it was a big event. Anyone would have felt stressed, but my Apple Watch told me about an hour later, hey, you're not okay. Your heart rate is too high. And anyway.
Yeah. Wow.
So I guess my question, so you already answered the question of, can it be emotional traumas? Of course. Yeah, I'm just, one of my questions is when you talked about the counting, because you used the spiritual crime piece, but was that just an
That's
example? And the counting
specific.
can be anything.
Well, counting can be for anything. That just happened to
Right.
be specific for her.
Okay.
So what if, do I have permission to peek?
Life for the highest good. Yes,
And
perfect
I'm not gonna go
protection.
deep. I think I knew your wife. And so, well, how old were you when your mom died?
So it was 2 days after my 21st birthday.
Wow, what a great present that was. Was it
Yeah.
unexpected?
Was it what?
Unexpected?
Well, she had cancer, she had lung cancer.
Okay.
And so she had lived about a year and a half after the diagnosis. And
Okay. Yeah, I thought you said she had cancer, but I wasn't sure which.
yeah, yeah. So I've
So,
had a lot of loss. And my brother died traumatically. Like, I've had a lot of loss. And I think there's a place inside me that's like afraid to die.
yeah, yeah. Well, a lot of humans have that fear.
Yeah.
It kind of goes with the territory. And you're in a good place to address this. So put the tongue on the roof of your mouth. And then if you can, breathe through your nose. If not, breathe through your mouth. That'll calm your vagus nerve down. You're in a perpetual state of fight and flight. And you're running from something instead of toward something. Does that make sense? So if we can slow it down, did you have a chance to say goodbye to your mom before she passed? Was there anything unresolved?
Yeah, we were buddies, like we were really close. And there was definitely some goodbyes. We never really talked about the whole gay thing. She had figured it out, but we never really, but I've kind of let that go because
Well, she loved you.
um
She was a different generation.
yeah,
I can see the love. I mean, the love
Yeah.
lives on.
we were really
Have you ever
close.
talked to her? Have you ever sat in SEs and just had a conversation with her so that you can?
Not in SEs during like DSS processes and stuff. I have.
Okay, same thing. Sometimes I'll go do my SEs and then I'll ask the question. And is there anything unresolved with your mom? Yeah, one thing is unresolved with your mom, and then you'll have greater peace. So I invite you just to have a conversation with her. Matter of fact, you could do it in like 2 seconds because it's right there under the surface.
Yeah.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
The main thing is that I miss her.
Yeah, but you can still connect her with spirit. It's also a bit of a negativity way to keep you stuck in grief so that you can't express the fullness of who you are as a human being. Does that make sense? Any of us that are consciously working on soul transcendence or being more loving, it's kind of like this. I tell this joke. It's like you start to get brighter. And then you're so bright that your light begins to shine like the sun coming up over the horizon. And Lucy, that's my nickname for Lucifer. And Lucy says, hey, guys, there's a bright light starting to shine over there. Handle it. And so we all get the things to handle that could dim our light, and frequently does, until something happens when it's time to let it go. Now, your mom will be with you forever. Half your DNA is hers. And I've lost many people that I love. One in a plane crash, one of a hospital overdose. I lost my daughter when she got dad napped. And the grief, it grows like a snowball because the negativity gets in and distorts it. Dying is this process of living. And it could well be that the thing that your mom never touched upon is the thing that's not closed with you. And your mom didn't have the words for it. All she could do was love you. Does that make sense? Yeah, so take a breath in, pat yourself on the back. Mom, I know you love me. And I'll forgive you for not addressing the thing that you never would address.
Luckily she had friends. She was actually a therapist and had therapist friends, and she had processed with them a little bit. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, basically it's because, anyway, long stories,
But
but
it is-
she
but
knew,
it
she knew that she was gonna, all her friends were gay, and she was probably gay. And she knew it was gonna be a hard road with my dad and with my grandmother, which it was, but they both came to I don't let people shit about that bother me
That's
too much, actually.
beautiful, but that unfinished piece with your mom, you can finish that today. Now,
Yeah.
the second piece about losing your partner, that's still more recent. And that's where the negativity really comes in on the trauma. Like, I'll never be happy. I'll never be in a relationship again. I'm too old. I'm too fat. I'm too skinny. I'm too tall. I'm too short. That's like standard operating procedure for the negativity. And that's its job. The thing about trauma is when we get curious about it, how can this move me into more loving? That's the only thing that kept me going. My goal is to love everybody I meet. I fall short. Trust me, there's some people I met that I'm not crazy about. But when in working with trauma, the thing I've learned is that at our very core, the things that we can't share will fester and turn into a dark cancer of some sort in our field. And the people that have done things out of their woundedness are the most likely to never forgive themselves. I mean, I have clear as a bell. This is about 35 years ago. I worked with a man who had been a pedophile with his children, and nobody would forgive him. He wouldn't forgive himself. He goes, I don't know what it was that I did that. And I can't believe that I'm such a hard, miserable son of a bitch pervert. I said, well, what did you learn? And he started to share all the things that he learned. And by the end of that, he was able to forgive himself. And ultimately, his children forgave him. So, love is forgiving. And when we can forgive the unforgivable, like what happened to me at the hands of people was unforgivable. And the only reason I am alive is because Christ held me through the experience. And then I forgot it all until I was after David died, I was 42-ish at that point. And I passed out in a steam room. And the Christ came and said, now I'm giving you your memories back because you're strong enough to handle them. Oh, that was not fun. It took me about 5 years to process it. And so in my anger, I went to the people who were the peripheral people that ignored it. And I said to my Aunt Ethel, the one that raised me, how could you have let that happen to me? Oh, honey, if I really let myself know what was going on, I would have killed them. So we do what we do. So the biggest thing is forgive yourself. Forgive your partner for dying so rudely. And know that love lives on forever. And I'm going to invite you to do a process where you literally touch in. And if there's anything that's incomplete, complete it. And send her off with a bow. She graduated. And
Yeah, no, I was pretty clear. I mean, she was so sick, it was such a blessing,
yeah.
for her to let go. And, I was doing prayer communion with her, and, it was a celebration, and I was there when she died, and kind of, that's actually a little bit of a trauma. I thought she needed something because she was choking, and then I went in the other room and I
She
came
died.
back.
That happens all the time. They wait for that. My husband was a chaplain, and I'm a minister and I'm a spiritual director. So I've worked a lot in hospitals with dying people. And the one thing they do is they wait for the one they love to leave. It's the dignity of their passing that you give them space. But then we have to give ourselves space. And the negativity will use something so simple as I went out to get X and it's my fault. When David
It wasn't
died,
a fault thing
he
in this.
go.
And I mean, I came back really soon after. I mean, I was gone for 2 minutes or something, and it was then beautiful. It was actually like this really, like, I'm not gonna share about it. It was too sacred, but
No,
it
you
was,
don't have to.
it was beautiful, but I do have, you know, some old trauma from memories of times that I didn't treat her well.
So here's what you got. So let's see where it is. Is it in the physical realm? No, the emotional realm. It's an emotional, mental, spiritual, unconscious. So this is in the emotional realm. So the way we do the algorithm to release that is I forgive myself for, and then what would you say? For the bad times I treated, I forgive myself for judging myself. Well, that's more mental. I forgive myself for being harsh with my partner. Does that fit?
How
How would you word it? I forgive myself for
I forgive
feeling.
myself for just I was actually more harsh with myself, but I was difficult to be around. So losing my temper
Yeah.
would be a general, you know,
So there you
I
go.
can
I forgive myself for losing my temper. And you don't even need to say with whom. You count to 100. You know, if this is all a curious experiment for each person's beingness. So you play around with it. So I forgive myself for feeling anger, right? You'll put your words on it, but it starts out with I forgive myself for feeling, because that specifically goes to the emotional level. Feeling as if I couldn't control my anger. The first time I felt as if I couldn't control my anger. The second time, you say it out 3 times, one for your high self, your basic self, and your ego self. And if you feel like getting sticky, or you go 9, 13, oh, wait, 10 comes after 9. No, you're in it. That's a key that you're doing it correctly. I've had people have dry heaves. I had one person throw up. But these were really significant traumas. And then you just keep counting. And if you can't say 15, the 15, you go 15A, 15B. And then it's like you're unlocking the vaults that are inside of you, that this unprocessed information has been matricized and weaponized against you. And that's what the negative power does. It pits us against ourselves, against the love. And Jesus said, when you do it to the least of them, you do it unto me. So why would you do it unto yourself? Well, because we're human, it's terminal. Does that help at all? Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Because I can already see that you're a little bit lighter. Remember all the joyful times and know that you have a friend on the other side. You got lots of friends on the other side.
I do.
So that's wonderful. So does that feel complete for you?
Yeah, I can take it from here. I keep forgetting that there's a whole room full of people because I only see you and
But
me.
the thing is that when I work with one, everybody gets worked with. I don't have to talk to anybody for them to be worked with. Everybody's being worked with simultaneously. That's the nature of the Christ light. That's the nature of love. It's a ripple. You put a pebble in the stream and it ripples out to all the sides. So your courage and your vulnerability, I would suspect, has helped everybody else here. Now, somebody did ask something here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. About something. Oh, where to find stuff? Yeah, you can go to my website. I think Peter put that up. And there's a upcoming master class with Lloyd Burnell on the science of healing and consciousness, something like that. I talk on day 2. I'll put it up on the Facebook page. I don't know if I'm allowed to on the MSIA page, but it's
Yeah,
a
you
free
can-
class.
Yeah, and if you can also put it on the Heart Reach Community Gathering Facebook
sure.
page.
Because I hesitate. I mean, I'm doing podcasts and I'm on top.
Promote all the good stuff.
Dr. Lynn, my understanding is the Facebook group called Berush Beishan.
Uh-huh.
You can put something like your upcoming podcast, and they don't necessarily want that in the movement of spiritual inner awareness Facebook page.
Oh, wonderful. Because I never do anything really on the Facebook page. That's the MSIA Facebook page. So I'll do Baruch Hashem. So that's helpful. Good moment. I don't like Facebook very much, and I don't like to be in againstness. So I started a blog in a Facebook page in 2018 in December. called Positive Joy with Dr. Lynn. And Peter knows this. I only put up positive quotes. I don't promote myself. One time I promoted my Lovelyville book when it was published, but I have 81,000 followers. So we little tiny things can make incredible ripples. So for all of you this Christmas, what gift do you want to give yourself? Like if you have this trauma thing, like maybe you pushed your brother and your brother hit his head and, you know, and you never forgave yourself. Like there's traumas that get a hold in our psyche, and the more we, and I'm not against therapists at all, but I do know that there are more effective ways that therapists aren't usually aware of, that re-traumatizing someone builds the myelin sheaths all that much thicker. And then we create a super highway of flipping into the trauma states. Whereas by making it completely algorithmic, we don't have to dabble in reenact any of the suffering. Your body knows you suffered, your psyche knows you suffered, your emotions know you suffered. So counting, if you take nothing else from today, is that you can count it out. And for those of you that want to write it down, if you think it's in your unconscious and you keep having the same recurring dream, for example, I forgive myself for behaving as if I'm going to die in a car crash, for example, or I forgive myself for behaving as if I'm going to be killed in an elevator. Whatever that seemingly non-logical thing might be, chances are it's stuck in your psyche and your unconscious, and it could be even another lifetime in the unconscious bleeding through here. So the emotional one is forgiving for feeling. I forgive myself for feeling sorry for myself, or forgive myself for feeling that so-and-so is untrustworthy. I forgive myself for judging, obviously, is mental. And the spiritual is, God, here's this, I'm giving this to you. And you'll all find your own way that works for you. This process is a process of, I've been working on myself for over 50 years, 60 years more accurately. And so every day is a new opportunity, not so much to release things anymore, but to create space for the new to come in. And that was my prayer for everybody today, is that the space would come in. So does anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, we have Anne. I can spotlight Anne.
Anne.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm fascinated with what you're saying and the work that you're doing. Because of the Christ season, and I know angels come to the earth at this time, I want to clear something which has been bugging me a long time. I don't know about the origin of it, but it's all to do with money. I'm not at peace with money.
You're not a what?
I'm not at peace with money.
Okay.
So I'm bothered when I get a bank statement. I mean, I get nervous when I receive a bank statement. I'm holding on to money because I'm afraid that if I spend too much, there's a lot going on around money.
Yeah.
But the beauty, I've just come through, I'd say, a year of what I'm calling medical events. They were miraculous. It's like how one thing after another, starting with the removal of an ovarian cancer, was a cyst, which had embedded right in the middle of it a malignant cancer. When the cyst was removed, it took the cancer with it. And I had subsequent examinations, internal examinations for signs of cancer, 16 biopsies, they're all clear. So I feel I'm clear of cancer, and I feel that the body, the malignant cancer was something the body got rid of in a very good way. And the whole year, although I had one thing after another, I feel it was miraculous, and it was part of a healing that was taking place. And I'm in the process of just completing writing a book, which is called Dancing with Hope, Awakening the Spirit Within You. And then the next thing is to get it to reach its audience. And I kind of go into overwhelm about that. But at the same time, this money thing is coming up, because if it's successful, then I'd be getting money. And because I really wanted to reach people and touch people, because it's from my experience, and I love the book.
Yeah.
I don't know if I told you. I'm sorry?
You have a good editor?
I have an excellent editor. Yes, he's in Canada.
Good.
I'm in France, but he's in Calgary, and he's fantastic. He really gets what I'm about.
So know that
Um,
you have support. You're not
Yes.
alone. When I look at this, my God, high is good. Do I have permission to say things?
Yes, please. Yeah, absolutely.
So there's a curse against you in money. Now, the question is, did you curse yourself about money? Yes. In this lifetime, yes.
Okay.
Like 19 to 20 years old, what was going on with you and money?
Um,
Out of
19
curiosity.
I dropped out of university. I was studying architecture for 2 years. I dropped out. When I was about 12 or 13 or so, my family went to live overseas, and I had to stay behind in England because the education was better.
Right.
I got so homesick that I resolved I'd never be close to anyone in case they left me. And that had an emotional impact on me. So I couldn't, I was okay when I was at school, but when I left school to go to university, I didn't have the emotional stability to function very well at all.
Right.
It came from that when I was about 12, when I was homesick, and I created a separation.
Right. And you separated yourself from an energy field, which happens to be money.
Yes.
When we separate ourselves from people to stay safe so we won't lose again, that
Yeah.
shuts down certain pathways inside of us. It
Yeah.
appears that you cursed yourself in some way, shape, or form. It could be you judged yourself when you left university. It could be you judged that there was something wrong with you, that they left you behind, even though it was the school. We don't have to know. But you also, in another lifetime, you also cursed yourself about money. So
Okay.
forgive yourself for any curses that you put out. You had a lot of money, and you didn't use it in ways that would have furthered people.
Yeah,
Let's
that
just say that.
I have a sense about that. And I have a sense, I was told, Michael Hayes once told me that I was an aristocrat in south of France, where I am now.
That's
And what
true.
happened when when I left, when my parents went overseas for about 3 years, and they lived in a fairly modest way, and I went to live with my father's elder sister. She was my guardian. I'm married to a man who's sarcastic towards me, but they lived a very wealthy lifestyle, and I love the wealth of that.
Ah. So that just set in motion some of this. Know that all money is an energetic medium of exchange.
Right.
Forgive yourself for any judgments you made, because in the
Mhm.
lifetime that you had money, you had a lot of money and it was all about you. So welcome to the world of maturity and wisdom gaining.
Yes.
You flop back and forth, so now you worry about not having money.
Mhm.
But the truth is, money's just an energy exchange. If you write down, I am winning the game of receiving money from seen and unseen sources with ease and grace. I made that prayer once after I got laid off from a job after I moved to California. 2 of my clients showed up and gave me $90,000 out of the blue.
Yeah.
That's how powerful we are when we choose light. It's so easy to choose the dark. We are all works in progress. None of us are perfect. Thank God we're not. The
Yes.
mistakes, from when I worked with people in Hollywood, take 1, take 2. JR used to say karma is spelled stupid. Take 999. On the 1000th one, you got it. So I would welcome you to start envisioning what it would be like to be open to receive not only the energy of money, but the energy of people who care about you. There's a lot of people that care about you, and you're still a little bit got the heart guard up. I know that one personally because I've been married 4 times and 2 died under tragic circumstances. And the first one tried to kill me. God bless him. My mother incarnate.
Right.
So I have a fear of people that I love dying, and yet there is no death. I mean, I got strangled once. I was on the other side. Close my eyes here, open my eyes there. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
We continue on. And I invite everybody here today to take whatever little piece you have. Now, we started by having you write down your trauma. We started by having you put an X in it. You've learned how to count it out. So it can be a very gentle thing. Like I forgive myself for judging myself for hitting that person in the rear end. You know, and you never ever forgave yourself. Or for example, the day that I went to North Carolina to do a speech, David asked me to stay home. And I came back 5 times because I kept forgetting things. And I said, honey, I'm having a hard time leaving. I said, I need to be there in 5 hours. And he said something to the effect, well, I wish you'd stay. Well, he died in the plane crash the next morning. And you better believe the barking dogs were on me. If only I'd stayed home. But the truth was, we choose our time of passing within a window, you know, and so the best we can do to be the magnificent human beings that we are is to take what you've written down, to count it out. When you're done, you just wash your hands, take a shower, light a candle while you do the process. That helps. And then chant some counts before and after, and then give thanks, because it's always for the highest good. And if it doesn't work with one algorithm, it's all a curious experiment. I never know. I've just been doing it so many years. I can look at somebody and say, oh, that looks like it's unconscious. That looks like it's emotional. We can do that for ourselves. Remember, J.R. said he'd never do it for us. But what I gave you is a means that you can become explorers in your own great inner frontier. Traumas are treasures waiting to be discovered. And hatred is a fear of the unknown and a fear of what we don't know. So when we fear our trauma and we hate our trauma, we just make the sucker bigger. When we get curious in it, it's like, wow, what happened to that little 6-month-old baby that got taken from her mom? You know? And it's like, I don't look specifically to clear anymore. I look to bring forward next steps. And if stuff like fear comes up, it's like, what is this fear? I release fear number 1, fear number 2, fear number 3, and then I get busy.
So
It
when
can
you do
be
the
that
fear,
simple.
do you do the forgiving of the fear? Because that's one of the
You
things
can do forgiveness of the fear. I forgive myself for holding on to fear. But
Okay.
sometimes, like the lady on the radio show, she had done so much work on herself. I just had her say, I forgive trauma number 1. I forgive trauma number 2. That was enough. Sometimes less is more. Our minds want to make it complicated. Loving yourself is probably the most challenging thing we will ever have to do, because the Christ light is inside of us. And we're like these wonderful diamonds ready to be cleaned off so we can do what he did and even greater.
Got it. My next book that I've written the text, but it needs adjusting, is the Wealth book, Winning with Spirit.
Beautiful.
And this is my preparation, although I'm still ending up and concluding the present book. The next book is Training Me. And the training is part of addressing the money stuff.
Exactly.
So I know that I'm being blessed, and I'm asking, because it's in the Christ season, I'm asking the Christ to bless me in the process of my learning. So I'm so grateful that I get to talk to you. And it's like, I don't want to conceal it. I want it to move on out so I can give to people from my wisdom and my learning and my experience. That's what I'm here for. My ordination, a blessing, is awakening. And I have 11 times the word greater in my ordination blessing. So I'm very much about expansion. And as I develop my freedom with money and my ability, I love the affirmation. I'm going to listen to the recording because I didn't get it all written down. As I do that affirmation, the book is going to reach more people, and I won't be afraid to receive money for it, because I think it's a really beautiful work that I've created.
It is. And forgive yourself for any time you've ever been a miser. I mean, we all hold on to things out of fear, and yet giving is one of the greatest things, but there has to be the reciprocal nature of it. So you give up your trauma, you receive abundance. You receive abundance, you share it with others. It's this wonderful bicycle. Once we start momentum to getting curious about what holds us back, it's not our enemy, it's our friend giving us greater wisdom.
Yes.
I want to thank everybody for being on the call today. It's been such a delight to share with you. And we have 2 more participants. Peter, do we have enough time to do that?
We have 5 minutes left.
Okay, let's do it in 5. Miss Rosen,
All right, Beverly, let me pin
just
you.
cut it right to the cord, Beverly, and we can do this. Oh, you're muted.
Got it. Okay. The main thing I wanted to address is there's a lot of stuff that builds into it, but I'm getting this terrible cramping in my left leg. It's been going on for about a year, almost 2 years now, off and on. It's
Mhm.
pretty bad lately. Keeps me awake and all that. I have some ideas of what it's related to, and I'm addressing stuff on a physical level. But anything you could see to help me with, I surely would appreciate it in this Christmas season.
Well, you know, and obviously you're taking magnesium and doing all that sort of stuff.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yeah, magnesium. I get. I'm a craniosacral practitioner, so I
Oh,
receive that
perfect. I'm
too.
preaching to the choir. Okay, so the bottom line is, if you look forward, this is from a foot standpoint, not a calf. Do I have my book here? I have a book here that I refer to, but it's not here. If you look at the idea of what do you use your calf for? You use it to walk with. You've got your
Yes.
feet, you've got your calf. Your calves, consider that when you're afraid to take a step forward, they might cramp
Mhm.
up. You know,
Yes.
we want to step forward, but we're afraid to. So let's just say it's the left side of consciousness because it's on the left side, just for example. If you
Mhm.
can go inside where the cramp is and
Okay.
start to love it up, massage it, talk to it, give it grace. It's giving you a message. And
Mhm.
and it could be that simple. You know, having the ability to give on one hand, but to receive on the other. So I would consider that as a possibility for right now. And then
Mhm.
once you love your calf, ask it what it wants to teach you. Most
I've
important.
been asking. It hasn't come
now
through yet.
open wider. You could do some free form writing. You could write a goal. I'm winning the game at listening. Now, is your basic self willing to help you? No. So you got to talk to your basic self.
Mhm.
Basic self knows what's going on, but has been unwilling to tell you. So be nice to your basic self. It's a holiday season.
Yes, it's
And
my
every
birthday's
day.
coming up. Yeah, my
And-
birthday's coming up too. So I think
So
I think
yeah,
there's some instances
dialogue
of that.
will take you a long way. So thank you. And who's the next
Okay.
person?
Thank you.
Jeannie, let me pull her up.
Hi, Lynn. Thank you. Can you give me any assistance with my relationship with my sons, 2 sons?
It's the oldest or youngest?
Well, it's the middle child, Benjamin, who I have the biggest challenges with.
Well, you got some karma with him. How old is he?
He was born in 69 or 70. 70. So he's
Yeah, so he's yeah. He's not a young kid. I would do freeform writing if you haven't already. And then I would write him a letter that you're not going to send. After you've done your freeform writing about all the pain and the sorrow of being a mom whose son doesn't, appreciate her. Then after that, then I write a love letter to your son, but one that you'll never send. And then you'll write a love letter from him to you, imagining that you're him, and see what comes from that. I think that'll give you a good opportunity. And above all, the thing that I use to reconnect with my family is JR 101. God bless you. I love you. Peace be still. And if you add to that the Ho'oponopono from Dr. Lou, it's I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Really, really powerful. That's how I heal separation. So I want to thank you. I think we're done exactly on time.
We are.
And I want to thank everybody for allowing me to play with you today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Lynn. You're just so amazing, and this was so healing. I know for me, and I'm sure everyone else as well. So God bless you and thank you. And yeah, that's all I got.
We need to have you back
Yes,
because
please.
I have a bunch of questions.
That's awesome.
You said, oh, I have morning exercises, and oh, I have this affirmation, and I have this, and I have that. So we're going to have to do this again.
Okay, and remember this. This is simple and powerful. You can do it at stoplights if you're stuck in traffic. You can do it when you wake up on the wrong side of the bed. You can do it in the shower. You can do it under the desk if you're at work and you're freaking out. And this
My grandmother and her two sisters, they
Mhm.
went through the Spanish flu, World War I, World War II, the Korean War. Nukes were all going to blow everybody up. And this is what they did when they got together.
Exactly. And you can roll your wrists because it'll strengthen your wrists. You can do it this way or that way or that way or that way. Or you can just really bring your hands over the top of your one, like starts palm to palm, and then your pinky finger comes over your knuckles and collapses. And it's kind of like what the Russian grandmas used to do, wring their hands, and it brings peace. And remember also putting your tongue on the roof of your mouth and nose breathing and then out your mouth. And even if you're just breathing anyway, it'll calm down your vagus nerve, which will calm down your stress response. And it's been a pleasure to be here. And there's lots of stuff you can listen to on my webpage. I don't even know all what it is, but it's there for you. So God bless you, everybody. Merry Christmas, happy everything. No matter what your religious persuasion is, the angels do touch close to the earth now. And thank you for allowing me to be with so many angels today. God bless you all.
God
God
bless.
bless